So a few people now have sent me a new patent granted to Nintendo that seemingly indicates that Blizzard is going to get sued because of pet battles. So if you're unaware of this, by the way, I'm a patent attorney, so I'm a little bit qualified to talk about this shit. But evidently, Nintendo just got a new patent that has to do with summoning a creature to fight in a battle against another creature. I mean, pretty broad shit here. First off, I'll break down as to why or why not Nintendo could sue Blizzard if they wanted to. But let's jump into here. We'll watch this video in the background as we talk this through and see what Nintendo's rights against Blizzard might be. Hey, maybe no more pet battles in the game. Oh shit, made dramatic. Well, let's see. What the hell?
You know, the more I look at that upcoming Digimon game, the more I want to support it. Just like I supported Palworld. Why? Because having alternatives, having options, rather than everything just being Pokemon, is a much better world.
Oh shit, I didn't know this. There's going to be a new Digimon game? What is this? Digimon Story Time Stranger? I used to love watching Digimon back in the day. Digimon are the champions. Great show. Yeah, I had no idea. Gabuterimon was one of my favorite Digimon. So they're creating a Palworld kind of game for Digimon, and Nintendo's watching like the Eye of Sauron, trying to destroy everything that has to do with summoning creatures right now.
Better world. As a matter of fact, I don't know if I've told anybody this, but when I was growing up, Pokemon was not my first monster taming game. My first monster taming game was Dragon Warrior Monsters for the Game Boy Color. And, you know, you might not believe me, but I actually enjoyed it quite a lot more than Pokemon Blue or Red. I don't know if I enjoyed it more than Crystal, but you could breathe.
I had Pokemon Blue. I also had Pokemon Yellow. Pokemon Yellow was my favorite. That was the one where the little Pikachu could follow you around. That was a great one.
The monsters in that game to hatch eggs and get a whole new monster that received its parents' movesets, which was a fundamental mechanic of that title, and the music is burned into the back of my head. I really did grow up with this title, and it made me realize how a lot of Pokemon's popularity might just come from hype, because the options out there are kind of better. Not all of them, but some are. And that is why I absolutely despise what the Pokemon Company has been trying to do with patenting game mechanics that could alter the landscape permanently for other developers. I don't want to live in a world where we don't have titles like this, that yes, while they were niche, and I may have probably been the only kid in my town playing it, they still provided me an experience that was similar, but different enough to be its own thing. I know people love catching their shinies in a lot of these titles, but I loved catching every single slime you could find and then breeding them with different monsters to get different types of slimes.
Forced breeding in Pokemon. That's not allowed in WoW anymore. We know the Alex Straza storyline's completely gone, but yeah, it existed in Pokemon for sure. It probably still does. Look, Pokemon and Nintendo in general has always been this way when it comes to IP. They enforce their patents. They enforce their copyrights. They legally just go down the rabbit hole with everybody. They don't leave any stone unturned. That's what they're known for. I actually saw not too long ago, because I work in this space, and you know, you got your LinkedIn and shit, that I got suggested to apply to a job for the Pokemon Company, and it had to do with copyright and patent enforcement. Like, that's what they were. So they hire people that this is just their job. That's all they do, is they look for infringers and they lay the fucking legal hammer on them. So I mean, that's just how they do it. And we all know Nintendo is not like a lot of other game companies where they'll kind of license their IP out to go to different platforms. Like Nintendo, they make their content, and same with Pokemon, which is kind of they walk hand in hand. They make their content just for their systems, and nobody else outside of the Nintendo ecosphere can make shit that has to do with anything, any of these copyright or this IP.
I mean, come on, tell me that the Slime Knight isn't the cutest monster you have ever seen in your fucking life. You would be lying to yourself. I would choose this over a Raichu any day of the week. And that's the beauty of options. Which is why it really disappoints me that I don't see the Pokemon fan base actually speak out more against what this company is doing. As we have an update on how Nintendo's patent with the Pokemon franchise could disrupt all of that. But before we get into the topic, I just want to remind all of you that we are
talk
so
about
close
the patent
to
when you bring it up.
110,000 subs. So close to me playing La Cucaracha on camera on my guitar. for you. They say that with every 1,000 subs, Fratanga becomes more and more Mexican. That's not true. I become more and more like a stereotypical Mexican. Well, the truth is, I just want you
I've
guys
never
to
watched
smash
this guy's
the
videos
subscribe
before.
button because in spite of the fact that the channel producer Monley, who makes the thumbnails, was deadly sick today, that fool still got up and still made
It's a
today's
great
thumbnail.
thumbnail.
So, shout out to Monley. Anyway, let's begin. Palworld isn't the only target. Nintendo's latest patent could touch hundreds of games. Nintendo has been awarded a patent for summon and fight mechanics in the US, and here's why that's a problem.
Yeah.
Who's that Pokemon?
It's a patent.
It's lawsuit!
I'ma sue y'all ass.
What do you mean the US said, yes, you can patent that? Really?
Well,
the land of the free, the home of the brave, and the
in a way.
snipers? We really said, yes, go ahead, Nintendo.
He's going to show the patent here
You
in a
can
second. I'll
patent
talk
that.
about it.
Are you kidding me? Last week, Nintendo quietly secured a US patent that, on paper, gives it ownership over one of the most common mechanics in gaming, summoning a character and having it fight another.
Yes, but okay, it does talk about summoning a character and letting them fight another. It does. I have the patent here, and I'm sorry, white screen. Yeah, Google Patents doesn't really have a dark mode. But the thing is, it covers more than that. It's not just about summoning a character. What this patent really gets into, and you have to look at the independent claim here. I'm not going to fucking bludgeon you guys with this shit. I'll just summarize it real quick. What the patent really gets into is covering how the summoned creature interacts based on whether or not there is like an enemy creature in the same vicinity. Yeah. So it's not just covering, anyone who summons a creature to fight another creature is going to be infringing on this patent. It covers the idea of a sub-character, as they call it, which is really your Pokemon or any other pet or thing that is summoned, like pet battles in WoW, so it would be considered a pet in WoW, having like a predetermined whether or not there's another character around, so if there isn't, then that thing just automatically follows you, like pets do in WoW. And if there's an enemy character around, it gets into a position with the enemy character where then it can then be, told to fight that character. That's what this thing's about. Now, that sounds very broad, even in that sense, right? The thing is, the way patents work, first off, is this thing only covers all the way back to 2022. So anything that existed prior to 2022, I mean, we can look, when did pet battles get put into WoW? I think it was, what expansion was it? Was it WoD or Wrath put into WoW? When did pet battles get put into WoW? 2012, Missa Pandaria. Missa Pandaria was the introduction of pet battles. So this patents don't work retroactively. You cannot get a patent today and enforce it on fucking anybody who existed prior. So that's how that works. So 2022 it was when they got this, when they were claiming priority back to. That's when they filed this in Japan. Their U.S. patent was filed much later than that, but they get to claim priority to the original patent that they filed in Japan. So anybody who's done this since 2022, they can go after them with this patent. Now, there's a lot of ways to fight against this shit. You can try to invalidate the patent. You could say this patent's too broad if they actually try to sue somebody. You could file grievances with the USPTO, which is the patent office here in the U.S., claiming that it should have never been issued. This is invalid. This shit existed a long time before this patent was ever granted. There's ways to fight against this stuff. So it's not just a blank check to go around just destroying everybody who summons creatures. But it is a pretty broad patent. I will say, just reading on it, it is pretty broad. So Nintendo is going to use this to try to stop other companies from creating a summon creature that can automatically determine whether or not another creature is in the vicinity or follow you based on those determinations. We'll see. We'll see how they use this. But as for pet battles in WoW, it's been around since 2012. I would say they're pretty darn free. They're pretty much in the clear here. I don't know about Digimon, though.
This is my formula. This is mine.
I don't understand. Does that now mean summons are taken completely out of Final Fantasy? Are we no longer going to be allowed to summon in certain JRPGs?
Now, one thing about that we all know Nintendo hates Palworld. Palworld released in 2024. So this patent could hit Palworld. Yeah, it could.
Is Nintendo going to prohibit that? This is a game mechanic older than Pokemon. How in the fuck do they have a patent on this? Is Nintendo going to come after me when I summon Mexicans to do my yard and all my fighting and my groceries and clean my car. US patent number 12409-387, which was issued today, covers the smooth switching of riding objects, but Pocket Pair already worked around this feature in Palworld, so right now, that acquisition is not much of a threat. However, as Games Fray reports in their thorough coverage of the case, patent number 1240339, which was granted over a week ago on September 2nd, how did we miss that? Is a much more significant concern, not just for Palworld. The patent 397 covers the fundamental mechanics of summoning a character to have it fight another. So yes, sounds like Pokemon, however, it also describes things that many other games do. You're goddamn right, it does. Summons are common.
And when you get sued by somebody for patent infringement, like Nintendo might do with Palworld, that's one way that you fight against it. You bring up cases where this already existed. Right, you'll say, tell the judge, hey, this patent is invalid because people have been doing this for years. Example A is this game. Example B is this game. Example C, pets in World of Warcraft, pet battles. Like, these are the things that you'll do, and you'll say, this patent should have never been issued. It's an invalid patent. This has been out in the public domain for a decade now. I don't know how they got this shit. And what ends up happening is you could also, people will file re-exams on this stuff to try to narrow the patent's claims and all that. There's a ton of stuff that goes into this. As I said before, it's not just an unchallengeable blank check to just destroy people with it when you get a patent. It's a very powerful thing, but it can still be challenged, right? Every time you sue somebody with it.
In a lot, and I mean a lot of games, I do not understand how you could patent this. Unless it's being narrowed down to summoning through an object like a sphere, it would have to be very, very, very specific. Because this patent is far too broad and it would disrupt the industry way too much. There's no way it would be allowed. So perhaps we're missing some info.
Well, here's the thing. He's going to get into that, but it's allowed. Patents are legal monopolies. There is no rule out there that exists that says, oh, you can't have a patent because it's going to stop everybody else in the industry from doing something. That doesn't exist. It's a legal monopoly. That's what a patent is. The automobile itself used to be patented, believe it or not. That was a thing. Like Henry Ford had to go get permission to make automobiles. Eventually, he was able to get around that patent. But there is no rule that says that you can't have a patent because it's not going to be fair. That doesn't exist.
Unlike many patents, which often face heavy scrutiny or rejections before they're approved, this one glided through the U.S. Patent Office without objections. It was filed in March 2023 and granted just last week.
March 2023 granted just last week. That's pretty fast. That is pretty fast. Typically, you file a patent, it's years. It could take 4 or 5 years. Usually, you don't get your first office action, which is a reply from the patent office, with stuff saying, "Hey, this is why we think your patent shouldn't be valid," right? And they give you all the prior art that exists out there, all the previous stuff that people have done, and then you can go back and forth to the patent office, narrow what the patent is claiming. Right? Narrow your invention down and say, actually, you're right. Ours is claiming too much right now. We just want to claim this little narrow piece here. And then they'll come back and tell you, oh, okay, yeah, that's fine. And then it gets through. For it to get through in just like 2 years, that means they probably got like a first office action notice of allowance, which means like they just filed the patent and whoever did the searching at the patent office just didn't find anything, which is kind of crazy and ridiculous. I don't know how they didn't find anything on this patent, but they just basically told him, hey, yeah, this patent looks good. I don't think anyone's doing this out there. Yeah, we need more gamers in the patent office. That's what it is. Had this guy played Pokemon, he would have, or any other game out there in existence, like the World of Warcraft pet battles, he would have known this shit already exists, really.
Now, I will leave a link down below to the specific patent so you guys can go through it. It's long.
It's called bribery? No, I don't think so. Highly illegal. Yeah, to bribe the patent office, that's a U.S. government organization. Right? It's a government-run organization. You bribed a fucking government-run organization. Yeah, that's pretty high stakes there. I don't think Nintendo would have done that.
35 pages. And yes, it is very specific. But the thing is, as specific as it is, lots of games still do exactly what the patent is aiming to protect for Pokemon. It's drawn out for you, and everything from the UI to the critter positioning to the summoning, is eerily similar to hundreds of games you have played.
Again, though, this patent focuses more on the positioning. That's what this patent's about. It's not about, the ability to summon a creature or to have one creature fight another creature. It's about once you summon the creature, how it determines what position or kind of next event should occur. If there's nothing else around you, the patent gets into, you summon a creature. If there's nothing else around you, the creature enters into an automatic following mode, basically where it follows the player character around. But if there's another creature around, it'll automatically go to that other creature, and then a fight can ensue where you command the two to fight each other. That's it, but even though it does that, which still sounds like a lot of other games, it remains broad at that point. So I still think this patent's going to be narrowed down more, because I still think some of this shit existed prior to the 2022 date that they're talking about here in this patent.
It reads as follows: an example of an information processing system moves a player character
Do I think
on a
Nintendo would
field
do that?
based on a movement operation input.
Yeah, I don't think Nintendo would do that. It's too risky. It is. That's a big move. I mean, imagine you losing your rights to the patent office. That would destroy the company.
Information processing system causes a sub-character
Rip warlocks
on the
and hunters.
field based on a first operation input. When an enemy character is placed at a location where the sub-character is caused to appear, the information processing system controls a battle by a first mode, in which the battle proceeds based on an operation input. When the enemy character is not placed at the location, the information processing system starts automatic control of automatically moving the sub-character. The information...
Basically, summarizing what they're saying here, this is legally as shit. Somebody who wrote the patent, this is how you talk when you write a patent. There's a lot of verbiage and stuff that goes into it. But it describes what I was just telling you. It's about a sub-character being summoned, and if and basically then a determination made as to whether or not there's an enemy character nearby to try to determine whether this animal or sub-character was summoned to fight, or whether it was summoned just to follow you around, in which case it'll enter a different processing mode where it just follows you around. That's what this patent's about.
Information processing system moves the sub-character based on a second operation input. And when the enemy character is placed at a location of designation, the information processing system controls a battle by a second mode, in which the battle automatically
Muastas. Thank you for the follow. Welcome to our Scourge.
proceeds. Yep, I don't see anything there about specifying it down to some type of sphere or
now he's
object.
reading the abstract, which is like it's a rookie mistake. You got to read the claim language, which really is what this patent covers. That's where all of your rights are. They're in the claims, and mainly they're in the independent claims, which are highlighted in the darker tones here. You can see there's like 3 independent claims. Typically, that's what you'll see in a lot of patents. Oh, there's 4 actually here. But that's what covers what this patent's about. But the abstract does an okay job of summarizing what's in here. We'll keep it layman's terms. As I said before, it's about summoning a creature, and that creature and the system determining what that creature should be doing, whether or not it should be fighting or following you based on whether or not there's an enemy character nearby.
Like a Pokeball, in which case this is absurd. Now, if only I had enough time to sit down with Florian Moeller on this, he could give a much more professional opinion. And I do talk to Florian Moeller, but not at length. Perhaps I could bring him onto a stream so we could look at this in more detail. But to me, what I'm gathering here is it's more to do with the sub-menus and how they're organized and the actions that come from those little sub-menus and the order that they are placed. The patent is very long and very descriptive, down to the button layouts and input prompts required to use it. And based on how long
look, the thing is, like with WoW though, and I haven't participated in a lot of pet battles. Nintendo stuff, I know. Yeah, they're just patent trolls basically filing all this shit and destroying people with them. With World of Warcraft though, you don't necessarily initiate a pet battle with your pet summon. Like there is the whole thing about you summon a pet in WoW and it follows you, right? That's a normal mechanic. But pet battles in WoW are different in that you have to click. In order to initiate the pet battle, you got to click on the little creature walking around, don't you? It has the little icon. You can right-click it and then enter into a battle. And battle these nuts, yeah. Enter to the battle with it, and that's when the whole thing initiates. It's not... Pet battles in WoW are not initiated in the way that this patent describes, where you can just throw your pet out, and because there's another creature nearby, it'll automatically enter into a fight mode. That doesn't... So even if pet battles came out today in WoW, which they didn't, they came out in 2012, we already talked about that. It would not be covered by this patent, the way that WoW does pet battles, at least.
It is. My best guess is whoever looked at this in the United States probably.
That's not how Pokemon works either. No, but it kind of is how Palworld works. And look, people will file these things, with future projects in mind. So maybe Pokemon wanted to make a game where that was a mechanic, right? A lot of times patents are covered for 20 years. When you file a patent, you got 20 years of coverage on that thing. So typically you're filing for coverage of things that aren't out yet. So Pokemon could be working on a game where that's how the mechanics work, where you summon a creature and determining whether or not there's another enemy creature around or whether there isn't, automatic follow mode starts. That kind of stuff happens. I agree. Like Pokemon on the Game Boy, that's not how it works, right? That one, you walk around and you come in contact with a creature. Same with the Switch versions of Pokemon I've played. You come in contact with the creatures you're walking, and then bam, transition pet battle is now initiated. Really, what this patent covers is a different kind of pet battling, but Pokemon as it exists today doesn't do it that way. That doesn't mean it is not going to do it in the future.
I didn't even want to read it or understand.
Waste to this realm.
Kapooms, thank you for the follow. Welcome to our Scourge.
A single bit of it and how this could affect other video games. Because that's the scary part.
There is a pet in WoW that automatically attacks creatures nearby. Yeah, but do you command? Because part of that patent talks about entering into a new processing mode where then you can command the pet what in terms of what attacks to do next. If it's an auto attack, the pet just that's not covered in this patent. That's why you can't just like read a patent abstract and be like, oh my god, this covers everything in existence. No, it doesn't. If you look at the claims, it's a little bit more narrow than that. Yes, you do command it. Try doing pet, but you command it in a pet battle. I know, but somebody's talking about a creature that you can summon that will automatically attack other creatures nearby in WoW. If it automatically attacks, you're not commanding it at that point. You're not telling it which attack to do. It's just picking an attack on its own and killing creatures. Well, you have your command bar. Yeah, but that one, if you're using the command bar on your pets, you can put it on auto attack. Sure, you can toggle on auto attack, but that's not automatic. It's a toggle. There's ways that can be argued. Also, when you toggle on auto attack and it just starts attacking creatures, doesn't it kind of decide what abilities it's going to do on its own for one? Yeah, I'm sure maybe you can click some abilities, but it's not describing what this is doing. And then, okay, we want to get into the nuances. Say it is describing it. It's still previous to 2022. We can just literally leave it at that. Like, that would be the easiest reply that Blizzard could give to Nintendo is like, bro, we've been doing this since 2012. And then if you want to get into hunter pets, since 2005. Let's be honest. I mean, this is way before 2022. That would be an easy reply. The fucking easiest job I ever had would be replying to that thing.
The approval of this patent in the United States could have horrible ramifications for everyone else. I mean, we already saw the influence Pokemon Company has had on Pocket Pair and how much they are trying to desperately shut that project down, up to the point that the game developers had to outright strip game mechanics to please them. And these are all patents that were formed within the last 2 to 3 years. Nintendo has big plans for Pokemon, and it would seem those plans are to ensure it is the only monster taming game of its kind. They don't want to risk another Palworld situation, so they're locking down their patent.
Esquire, thank you for the follow. Welcome to our Scourge.
Now, as a way to future-proof their intellectual property. The amount of greed required for something like this is insane. Pokemon's success and brand recognition alone is not enough for Nintendo or this company. They want to basically own the concept itself. And the fact that it was approved in the United States is quite frightening. Now we can't expect any US developer to try and make their own Pokemon-like games since this patent was approved. Now, I know that doesn't mean Nintendo...
People are going to attack this patent, though. I'll tell you that right now. People are going to attack it. Even if Nintendo hasn't sued anybody to use the patent yet, and I guess they're using it in the Palworld case, but you can preemptively... Say you work in this and you want to make a game where you summon creatures and you want to do what's described in this patent. There are ways to attack the patent without even being sued by Nintendo. You can file IPRs, ex parte re-examinations, like a bunch of things where you basically point out to the patent office like, hey, we work in this industry. We just want to let you know that this patent probably shouldn't be a patent. And here's the reasons why we found this stuff out there. And you could do that stuff, and it can actually they can invalidate the patent. The U.S. Patent Office can look at it again and say, "Oh shit, you're right. This shouldn't be a patent. It's gone." And people will do that. People are going to do that. I can't look at the file right now. I could, but it'll be boring ass content. But I could look right now and see if there are any pending post approved examinations going on right now with this patent.
Would automatically seek out any game. But the hyperfixation they have on this tells me that it is just the beginning.
Yeah,
they are
habeas
going
corpus.
to roll out some serious legal consequences for anybody who even attempts to provide an alternative to Pokemon. That is how much of an impact Palworld has had, which is honestly quite necessary, because had they not done that, we wouldn't know exactly how greedy and evil this company is.
Yeah, it's a tough one. The point is that Nintendo patent is going to drain the resources of smaller companies via lawyer fees. That's true. That could be a tactic they use, but there are ways around that. For the patent office does have like smaller company reductions in cost. So there are, when you're working with the patent office, if you're considered a smaller company, and there's definitions for that in terms of the number of employees you have and all that shit. You can file things or grievances with the patent office to, like some of the stuff I was just talking about, to invalidate this patent. You can do that at a pretty low cost. It's not going to cost you that much. Now, getting into a lawsuit with Nintendo, yeah, that's probably going to cost you a bit more if they've sued you already. But that's why you want to preempt this shit. That's why people in the industry are probably already trying to attack this patent.
This is simply
getting
not
ready
enough, because when you're as successful as Pokemon, you no longer have to win over people. You just have to fight for your spot on top, which is what led this franchise into being the laughing stock of all Nintendo IPs. Rather than seeking motivation by trying to be the best, they are motivated out of sheer jealousy and insecurity. Now, this article brings up a very good point. Summoning minions in Diablo? Nintendo could own this. Please, at this point, if I wanted my girlfriend to ride me, Nintendo would bust down the door and seek legal action, because they own that now.
Oh.
That's a brilliant plan, isn't it?
Yeah, I know, that was funny. And you can tell it was funny because it didn't come from me. It actually came from the top comment of the week, as you can see right here.
That's great.
Congrats to you, good sir, for the best joke I've heard in a while, actually. Patent 397 is potentially explosive for the gaming industry because it isn't just about Palworld. If a game does all of the following, it could be challenged, which is either there must be a PC, console, or other computing device, and the game is stored on a drive or similar storage medium. You can move your main character in a virtual space. You can summon a secondary character. If there's an enemy present, the summoned character fights it, either automatically or based on your input. If there isn't, the summoned character can still move and fight when it encounters an enemy later. My concerns are exactly the same as whoever wrote this article, and that is the patent war, where companies are now so big they can patent the most minute of things in order to remain unchallenged in the market. That is the goal. It's so obvious that they are trying to build the groundwork for a much bigger lawsuit to take down Palworld.
I will say the opposite happens too. He's talking about massive companies coming down and destroying these smaller companies. The opposite direction also happens, where you get what we call like patent troll farms, where basically they're just like these really small entities that just buy up patents, or they're like these upstarts that all they do is try to file a bunch of patents on stuff and then go around and collect money from bigger companies that they say are infringing. And they just frivolously send letters around trying to collect money from all these big companies. It's annoying ass shit to deal with. It's some of the stuff that I deal with on a constant basis. So this goes both ways. But I'm not saying Nintendo's a good guy here. They're not. They're kind of fucking around and they're really destroying the industry with this one.
Is going to be a long-term investment for them. And if it pays off, if they win, they will come down on every other monster taming game like the Hammer of Thor. I know this paints Nintendo as an almost cartoonishly evil company, but this is really their true colors. A lot of their success is attributed to their legal fees, and they have an endless pocket for that, no pun intended. How this was approved and allowed in the United States is absolutely tragic and makes you question how much the US versions of games like this are going to be affected now because of fucking Nintendo. God, I hate them. I seriously wish this company would go through another Wii U phase so they could be humbled. Because as it is now,
They've been eating
sometimes
lately.
I feel like the love people have for Nintendo doesn't actually come from their product.
Couldn't you argue that patents only apply to the same platform? So since Nintendo is exclusive to their own device, they can't claim it? No, and unless the patent itself claims that it's only on that platform, which is unlikely. You try to write patents, so that's not the case. So if the patent said for use on Nintendo, I don't know, you wouldn't use a trademark like Nintendo in a patent, but I don't know, handheld devices. Like if they just limit it to handheld devices in the patent, then sure, maybe then it would only apply to things outside of the sphere of what a PC is or something. But that's not in this patent, and people typically won't write a patent that way because you don't want to only be limited to a single platform.
But the very fact that they pay a lot of money to ensure they are the only option. And like I said, I don't want to live in a world where we don't have options like Digimon or Dragon Quest Monsters. I need titles like this because I don't want to be playing gay-ass fucking Pokemon.
You could argue that the mouse of a PC is a handheld device. Well, it's not running on the mouse. I mean, typically what you do is you look at what the claim is, and then you determine whether or not somebody skilled in the art, like how somebody skilled in the art would determine whether what that term means. So most people skilled in the art of whatever fucking gaming, whatever art you want to relate this to, would not see a PC as a handheld device. That would not be determined to be a handheld device. So even they could argue that, but that wouldn't work.
The designs of the Pokemon are ass. The graphics are ass. The
industry
is
sees
ass.
a handheld device
the
as a
price is too
computer
high,
in your hands.
And the quality of the franchise is
Basically.
at an all-time low. It's honestly embarrassing to see what Pokemon has become. At one point, maybe you could take a little bit of pride in this franchise, but it's just gay now. The last thing I want is for gameplay mechanics to be stripped from titles that could potentially serve as an alternative to Pokemon. Because someone like me very much enjoys the alternatives a lot more. And that's not because I naturally hate Pokemon or Nintendo. It's just that the franchise has become complete ass. And that is completely their fault. Why the fuck should other game developers be punished because they dared to provide an alternative? As it is, it's not looking good. Not just for Palworld, but a lot of other games. If there's a legal way of fighting this, please provide me all the details you can.
I did.
Because when I was a kid, it was okay for alternative.
IPR, inter partes reviews, ex parte re-examinations. There's plenty of ways that the industry as a whole could fight against this patent and destroy it before it ever gets used by Nintendo against somebody else. That exists. And this is the reason why that exists, is because sometimes a patent application will get through the patent office that shouldn't have. It happens. These things are reviewed by humans. There are examiners who sit in the patent office, and that's what they do. They look at a patent application, and they try to find whether or not it exists out there or not. And sometimes humans make mistakes. They let things through that shouldn't have gotten through. But the industry as a whole then can look at the patent that just got through, and they could say, hey, whoa, you guys fucked up. We all do this shit already. And when they present that to the patent office, they can delete the patent, essentially.
To exist. Now, Nintendo wants to ensure that isn't even possible. For that reason alone, you need to stop supporting this company. Stop buying the slop that they release to you. Every dime that goes their way will be used against your gaming tastes and preferences eventually. Like, comment, share, and subscribe if you so choose to. That being said, see you in the next video.
Africonga sucks ass.
Pretty good review, nice stuff. So to answer the question that kept coming up in Discord, multiple people sent me this article. Will it affect pet battles in WoW? No. Just for timing's sake, it will not. Pet battles in WoW existed long before this patent was a patent. So that cannot be the thing. And also, even the way WoW does pet battles to me is not what this patent necessarily covers, even though Cadence in chat was trying to tell me, yeah, it's a little bit of the same. I don't think it is. But besides the point, WoW is not in trouble, but this could affect the industry, as this video was describing, in terms of what could come out in the future, right? We got 20 years of this thing existing. So that would stop people from making shit like this for 20 years. That would suck. I personally think this patent's eventually going to get wrecked a little bit. Probably not exist anymore or narrowed. So we'll see what happens. Plenty of post-grant review stuff they could do to this patent. But overall, my first video I ever watched from this guy, nice video from Fredignata.